Robin Campbell, welcome back to Australian Musician.
Thank you.
We're chatting to you because you're coming back to Australia in October. How do you cope with that long flight? Are you a reader? Do you watch TV?
I tend to watch movies. Yeah. I tend to catch up on movies that, I might normally have gone to the cinema for in the old days, which I don't do anymore. But yeah, I tend to, especially on long flights, I tend to just watch movies for the whole journey.
Yeah. You've also got a new album, UB45, celebrating 45 years in the business, which features some new tracks as well as some re-recordings. Some of those re-recorded songs are very close to fans' hearts. Was there a worry that you might mess with the legacy by re-recording them?
A slight worry, I guess, that there might be some complaints, but the thing is, Matt Doyle has been with us now for 3 years, our new vocalist, and sorry, that was me dropping my phone. Yeah, Matt's been with us for 3 years, and the one thing that fans have been saying to us is how good he sounds singing the old classics, singing the originals, and we just thought, by way of celebrating the 45 years, it would be cool to record some of those classics with Matt singing them, because he sounds so good when we do it live that, yeah, we just wanted to record it for posterity, really, and maybe show people who may not have been to see us live since we had Matt with us how good he is singing those songs, and yeah, so they're not that different, but I suppose they're more like we perform them live now than when we originally recorded them, 40 years ago. So yeah, it was really to showcase Matt Doyle's talents, because really that's the one thing that everyone's been saying is how good he sounds singing those originals, the classics and the fan favorites. So really, we thought it would be well received, just because it has been by the fans that have spoken to us.
Yeah, Matt's been with you a few years now, and I know he toured with his own band supporting you guys before that. Do you recall seeing him for the first time?
Yeah, we were at an awards ceremony in Birmingham receiving an old age pensioners award, and for services to music or something, and they were the band playing live at the awards, and they actually did 1 in 10 as a tribute to us, and we got talking to them after their performance. Got on very well with them. They reminded us very much of ourselves, the band Kyoko, multiracial gang who play, all sorts, but mostly reggae. And yeah, we invited them on tour because of that, and I was always impressed with Matt Doyle singing. And then we did the collaboration album, Bigger Bag of Rhythm, and we invited him to collaborate with us on one of our tracks, and he wrote a new song to go on one of our backing tracks. And I remember then thinking, he sounds really good with our music, he just fits in so well with the sound. He'd grown up on UB40. He's been listening to us since he was a kid, sitting in the back seat of his dad's car, singing along to his dad's record tapes and stuff, so I knew how good he was, well before I invited him to join the band.
Yeah, and he's contributed a couple of songs to the new album, so he's paying his way.
Absolutely, he's full of youth and enthusiasm, and yeah, we co-wrote a song which is on the album, Champion, which we wrote for the Commonwealth Games, and we co-wrote that song together. And then he started bringing lyrics to us, and he brought a couple of tracks which we've recorded on the new album, Home and Trouble. And he's just full of, he's young and full of ideas. And as you get older and you've recorded 20 odd albums, it gets a little bit harder to find new ways to say the same thing, you know. So it's great to have someone who's full of enthusiasm and youth and vigor and ideas, you know. So yeah, he also came to me with the idea to cover the Brenton Woods song, "Give Me a Little Sign." It was he that came to me with that suggestion, and that kind of blew me away because that's been on my list of to-do songs for the last 40 years. I compiled a list 40 odd years ago when we were first talking about doing the Labour of Love album, which was covers. And yeah, it's been on my list for all those years. And he came and suggested that song. And how do you know that tune? You know, it was recorded at least 20 years before you were born. How can you possibly know it? And he said that he'd heard it on Spotify or something, you know, and he loved the tune. And I told him that I still had the 7-inch vinyl version of the original, and I'd be delighted to cover it. And we took it to the guys, the rest of the guys in the band, and they all loved the idea. And yeah, his enthusiasm is it's infectious, you know. It rubs off, and that's a great thing for a bunch of jaded old guys like us.
The track "Forever True" is basically food for thought with the Birmingham City football fans singing the sax line. How did that all come about?
Well, we're still Birmingham City fans. We were born, you know, we grew up around the ground, within a few miles of the ground. So we're all pretty much Birmingham City fans. There are one or two Villa fans, but yeah, we've been going to the Blues ground for a long time, and we got talking to the new owners, the managing director, the chairman of the club. We were having chats with them, and they've been singing. The fans have been singing the original Food for Thought anthem since its release, you know, 40 odd years ago. So the sax line, the iconic sax line in that original tune, is the fans all sing that sax line, you know. And it was a great buzz to be in the stadium and hear that every time a goal was scored, they all started singing that line, you know. And the chairman said to us, "Would you write a new tune for the fans, you know, so that they could have a new anthem?" And I said, "We'd love to, but we ought to incorporate that iconic sax line because the fans love it, and it's become such a part of you know, the fan chanting, that if we were to write a new tune, it would have to be based on that, still using that sax line." So we used the original music from Food for Thought, but wrote a new set of lyrics to go with it, and they absolutely loved it. And literally, we played it for them in the stadium, just literally a couple of months ago, and released it as a single. And within a week, it was #1 on the downloads charts. You know, so all the fans were downloading that tune all of a sudden, and it was it's brilliant. And now, if you go to the Blues ground, that's the tune that they're playing, the new version. You know, which is it's wonderful. It's a great buzz to go to the stadium and hear them all singing it.
Did you play as a kid? Did you have dreams of playing football?
I did, yeah. It's one of the, you know, it's one of the ways out of the doldrums that you dream of, you know. And I played as a teenager. I played in Sunday League, which was, you know, is an amateur league. Obviously, I never got professional or anything, but yeah, I used to play in Sunday League and loved it. But then I got damaged knees and decided running wasn't for me.
The band's been going for 45 years. Technology hasn't slowed down. How has UB40 and technology got along over the years? Like, do you use in-ear monitoring now?
Yeah, yeah. We embrace new technology. You know, there's no point fighting it. You got to go with the flow. You know, and yeah, we use in ears. We don't use any on stage monitoring now. If you came on stage, the only thing you'd be able to hear would be drums. The rest of us are all plugged in, you know, internally. But yeah, it's the same in the studio. You know, the new ways come of making. When we first made records, it was on 8-track machines, you know, 8-track tapes, analog, and you know, that was how we made our first album, was with 2 8-track tape machines bouncing from one to the other and mixing down as we did it. You know, and things change very quickly, you know. And then we built our own studio and embraced all the new technology. Got a big old desk and recorded digitally, you know. That's, you've got to. If you don't, then, you know, you're a dinosaur, aren't you?
Yeah. Do you use any pedals with your Patrick Eccles?
I don't. All of my sounds are all programmed into the amp.
Okay.
So I use the sounds that are on the record. Basically, I use, you know, whatever sound was created for the record, whether it's phaser, chorus, whatever. Yeah, they're already pre-programmed into the sound for that song. So I have all of my tracks are, you know, created into my amplifier, and yeah, that's how it's done. And of course, I've got a tech guy who adds reverbs and repeats and echoes and stuff, you know. And of course, the guy out front does a lot too. So, but for me, really, I don't want to be dealing with pedals. I did used to when we first started, but once it became technically possible to not use pedals, that was much better for me, because I'm concentrating on singing too, you know.
Yeah. You're touring Australia with Eagle Eye Cherry. How far back do you guys go?
We don't. I have heard him before, you know, we know him, but it was suggested to us as a support by the Australian promoter, and we just thought, wow, what a great idea. We haven't heard from him for a while, and he has a great following in Australia. So, you know, we were really up for the idea. I'd really like to hear what he's doing now, you know. I think it'll be fascinating.
Yeah. You get to play a lot of famous venues, a lot of beautiful theatres. What's the strangest place you guys have ever played?
Strangest? Oh, I don't know. I can't think. The worst thing is when you play, when there's a lake between the audience and the band. You know, when you get these venues, in fact, I'm pretty sure there's one in Australia that we played where there's a lake between the stage and the audience. And for me, that's the worst thing, because it's kind of an atmosphere killer.
Yeah.
You can see the audience over there, but you know, it's hard. I like to see the whites of people's eyes. I like to see people up close, and I like to see them dancing and hear them singing, you know. But when they're, you know, hundreds of yards away on the other side of a lake, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
We also did one in we played a show in Mumbai in India, where we played the Bollywood Awards, and then which was fine. That was to billions around the world. But then the next day we played a live concert at the same venue, but it was still set up as it had been for the Bollywood Awards, which was televised. And there was it was a cricket ground, and the audience was there, and it was full. It was a sold-out show, but they weren't allowed on the ground. So the stage was on one side of the stadium, and the audience were on the other side of the stadium, and the whole cricket pitch was cricket field was in between. which again is a total atmosphere killer, you know. So that was pretty strange because you just had no idea if the audience were enjoying it or not, you know. It's really strange.
Yeah. The band has sold tens of millions of records. You're doing okay for yourselves. What was the first extravagant purchase you made for yourself when the checks started coming in?
I think, like everybody, was probably somewhere to live. I'd been living in rented accommodation before we had any success, and the first thing I did was buy myself a flat, an apartment, you know. Um, and then I went out and bought a car for cash, which I've I bought a brand new car, which was because I'd never had the ability to do that before. I'd only ever bought second-hand cars, um, and that was a bit of a buzz. But I've never done it since. I always buy second-hand cars. I've never bought a new car since because it lost so much value when I sold it on, you know, and it was literally only 18 months old, and it was worth, I can't remember, half the value of what I paid for it, you know. And I just thought, I'm never doing that again.
A lot of UB40 songs were discoveries. We touched on it before, from old reggae and ska guys, vinyl that you'd found maybe in a market, maybe in a shop. Do you still do deep dives and seek out rare records from the 50s and 60s?
Well, it was never done like that. I bought them at the time. I was collecting records from my very early teenage years, from sort of age of 11 and 12. And that's when ska turned into rock steady and then reggae, you know. So I was buying records at that point, and I've never gone looking for old records. I've I have a collection of old records that I bought at the time. You know, they were current when I bought them. So yeah, when we decided to do the album of covers, Labour of Love, um, that was based on records in my collection. Basically, I compiled the list of songs, but there were songs that we all knew. There were songs that we'd all grown up on. I wasn't, you know, the only one. Everybody loved the same music. We'd all grown up on the same music, but I happened to have a record collection because I'm a few years older than everybody else. So I was buying records at the time, you know. And yeah, when we compiled the list, I compiled a list of probably 200 songs from our youth, our teenage years, and younger. Yeah, so I compiled the list, and half of the time I still had the original 7-inch vinyl.
Yeah. In another 45 years, we won't be around. How would you like UB40 to be remembered?
Um, as one of the bands that brought reggae to the world, you know, we've always seen ourselves as ambassadors for the music. You know, we're a bit evangelical about it. You know, it's a music that totally informed UB40. You know, and UB40's tastes, and we were listening to other pop music and R&B, Tamla Motown, etc. And in fact, I was a ska fan. I was listening to Prince Buster, etc. But when reggae happened, that was, you know, it changed everything for us. And if there's one thing I'd love people to remember about us, is our love for reggae and how we championed reggae as, you know, as the music for us, and we took it around the world. And apart from Bob Marley, you know, I don't think there's anybody been more successful at taking reggae around the world than us. So yeah, I'd love to be remembered for that.
Yeah. All right, Robin, it's been great to catch up again. The album UB45 is out now, and we'll see you in October.
Thanks, Greg. It's good talking to you.
Yeah.